Okay, so what we have here is a 1997 Chevy Suburban 1500, changing the fuel pump on it. If the Reese wasn't there, sure would make things easier because the saddle on the tanks, the straps, just allow it to come right down where you need it to be, but the Reese is in the way. I got a lot of tools out here and I'll explain why. What you do need is just a simple hammer, straight screwdriver, pair of pliers are optional, and a 15mm socket. So first thing you're going to do is you're going to pull the straps off the saddle with the 15mm. That's these straps here. They'll be right up underneath the bumper right here, and they're real long bolts because they help to carry and put them back, and you'll realize that helps. I wish they were even a couple inches longer so you didn't have to push so hard. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to take loose the hose where the fuel neck is, right here. You're not going to take it loose at the tank. You're going to leave the hose on the tank. You're going to take it loose at the fill neck. And that's a straight screwdriver to get that off right there. You can't see it, it's too dark. You'll see it when you get your head under there. So take that off with a straight screwdriver. Then you're going to drop your two saddle bolts. Bolt both of those down, your tank will sag. I've removed all of it because I have a wire problem, but you don't need to, because if you look at the other end of this strap, it's made to sag. So that end will stay up in there, the back of the tank will come down. Do this when your tank's only got about 5 gallons or so in it. It's easier to lift it up and down. So if not, drain some out of it. So saddle the back end down. Once you get the back end down, this is the optional part with the pair of pliers. You don't need to do it, but I do it. You can take loose this hose right here. The reason is because it crosses right over top, on top of your the pump chamber. If you have that out of the way, it makes things easier. Next thing you want to do is pull this line off the top of the pump. This part sits in the tank. Pull this line off here because that makes it easier. Everything else is going to stay on the tank, the wiring, everything. You have a O-ring that sits down inside of there. Once you have the tank in there, well, actually it'll still be in there. This little sleeve, this collar right here, just slides around. Tap it with your screwdriver and hammer counterclockwise. It'll come off of these lips right here, turning that way, and the whole chamber will pop up. At that point, you can lift it out. After you lift it out, you're going to take loose this screw right here at the top of the pump. There's a little hose right there, and that hose is going to stay with the pump. Take that hose clamp off at the top, unclip the wiring harness right there, and everything else will just come out. It will look like this. That's your old one, except you will have that hose on there. Then you can take the hose off when you crawl out from underneath the truck and replace it and put it on the new pump, unless your kit came with a new hose. If it did, I highly advise you change it, because they like to split and they bleed back into the tank a little bit, and that's a common problem with lack of horsepower. These pumps do go out, and sometimes they don't go out completely. You have hesitation with your vehicle and acceleration, and sometimes on idle, and that's just a bad pump. You run the codes and all the codes say they're good. No spark problem, plugs are good, you've changed those. A lot of times it's just a weak pump. Suburbans are notorious for that. So anyway, assemble it backwards, pop your sock on. Your sock is your filter that's at the bottom. You have another filter that's underneath the driver's door on the frame. I can show you how to change that. I have another video of it on a 97 and a 99, but they're identical all the way up to, I don't even know, 2005 all the way back to 1988, 89. They're all very similar. So put your sock on, put the pump back in, tighten back that up, put your clip back in here, and set it back down in there. The reason I've gone this far, you don't even have to drop the tank like this. The reason I have is because I had a wiring problem right here. My pump's not reading, my fuel gauge is not reading. This pulled out of this little plastic loom, and there's not enough there to solder it back together. So I've just taken a piece of wire and I've crammed it in there, and I used my wife's hot glue gun, and that's it, extended it out. So now I can just go ahead and put everything back together. I'll just strip this back and just put a coupler between the two, and I'll probably put a little glue on that too. You know, I don't like anything to spark. So if you have a problem with your fuel gauge, that could be it, or maybe this float is bent a little bit, so check that out too. And they should just hang completely flat, just like that. It should run even with the sock, and this line should be able to go all the way down, even with this line here, the return line. As long as it does that, your float should be fine. So just check the wiring. So that's it. I hope that helped you. These Suburbans are extremely easy to change the pumps. Don't hesitate to try it. A lot of people say, oh, it's in the tank, it's a pain in the butt. They're extremely simple. Floor jack, straight screwdriver, hammer, pair of pliers if you want to move this little hose out of your way so it's not a pain, and a 15 millimeter. That's it. Extremely simple. Don't pay somebody hundreds of dollars to do this. This pump on rockauto.com cost me $29. And I think the parts store wanted 89 or 109, something like that. So it took me 3 days to get it, but extremely easy. So I hope it helped. Enjoy.